Since you all made the effort to get here and travel across the city and perform your acts of devotion, I think it'd be good to spend just a few minutes in silence, letting yourself settle and steady your attention, clarify your attention so that you're preparing your mind and heart to receive Dhamma. So let's take about 10 minutes. And I'll give you a few pointers, a few guidelines to establish this very important, make your mind a vessel that is ready to receive teachings. So fully bringing yourself into this room, this place. So now as if we've left Malaysia behind. We're in the realm of Dhamma, safe refuge place. Bring yourself into that place where you feel safe, refuge, making a distinct effort to put aside worldly concerns for this period of time. Leave it outside the room, just like you take your shoes off, leave the world outside. Steadily, carefully. And what will help you with this is coming fully into the presence of how your body feels. Set the body up in a way that's suitable. Which is alert. Because we'll be listening to teachings, so you want the body to be alert. But also you want the body to relax any agitation that's come from moving around and being in places. So if you can relax, particularly if you relax around your face, your eyes, your mouth and your head in general, these are the areas that get very active when we're moving around looking at things and talking. So bring yourself into the upright position and switching off aspects that you don't need. And take a long breath out. And long breath in. And when you take your long breath out, let it carry your mind with it. So as if at that time you're breathing out your concerns and thoughts, just connect your mind to your breathing. Make the breath long, smooth, till you empty. And relax and let the in-breath come in clean. You may find it helps to connect a word to the out-breath, such as peace, or even a sound like ah, om, something that's soothing sound to it. So you're really gathering your mind, your heart, connecting it to that rhythm of breathing out and releasing. And let the in-breath come in quite naturally by itself. And do the same thing again when you breathe out. Okay, with the next time you have an exhalation, next time you breathe out, feel the exhalation, breathing out. Get to the end of the exhalation, just let your eyes come open. And keep your eyes downcast. And slowly, as the inhalation comes in, let your eyes come more fully open. Still remaining quite settled in yourself, quite stable in yourself. And you open the sense doors, seeing, hearing, and preparing for Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammaṃ Sanghaṃ Namasami. Sadhu. So we've come here today to receive some inspiration, some clarification, some perspectives, what our life's about, what our mind's about, which is the proper way forward in our life, where we get a sense of purpose, direction, and where we can clean or clear any misfortunate effects, misjudgments, errors in our conduct, errors mental, verbal, physical, when we feel we've been careless. So this is a regular thing to do ideally every day, but when you can do it together as a weekly basis, the sense of gathering together gives it a greater strength. And we're gathering together in the hall dedicated to the Buddha. So that gives it a great sense of strength, and the strength of the Buddha, and the strength of the Dhamma, and the strength of the community. That helps us to get the support, to take the time to clarify and to return to deeper perspectives on where we're going, what's happening. Taking refuge then isn't just much more than just a phrase. It's a real need that you all have in order to find a steady place in a world which is quite chaotic and full of unwholesome influences and full of speed and velocity and things that are running around that get very overwhelming and intoxicating. And the mind gets stuck in it. The heart gets stuck in it. Whether we choose to or not, it has this effect. The heart is not properly strengthened and cleaned. It's like sticky, like having fly paper. And as you have fly paper, you walk around, you catch flies. Even if you don't want to, that's what happens, because the heart is still sticky. And the idea is to clean the heart so it doesn't have any stickiness left in it. So then you can walk around in the world without getting flies stuck on you. That you have to keep pulling off every now and then. And where does this stickiness arise? Upadana, stickiness, clinging, attachment, where does it arise? And so it's we want to find that out. So when we come into the meditation period, just in 10 minutes or so quietly, you can recognize certain things become very incontrovertible, undeniable. One is that the mind is not in control. It's not your mind. It's captured. Yeah. You might say all you have to do is take a break and just breathe out, breathe in and just experience peace, quiet, but mostly what we experience is a tangle of thoughts and emotions, and that are all kind of irrelevant to this time. Here we are sitting here in a place of peace. The mind could be planning the future, worrying about the past, concerned about our relatives, even things that happened years ago, and just really unwilling to drop it, to let go, and to just find its own peace and stability, which you'd think would be something that naturally would be attracted. In some sense we are attracted to a sense of peace and stability as an idea, but the reality of it is frustratingly difficult. Because the mind is not, we don't have control over it. Yeah? And when you recognize that, it's not because anybody else is doing it. Nobody else is asking you to think anything or remember anything or work anything out. The mind itself is under the control of influences and forces that we're not really clear about, forces of attachment. And this is the same for all of us, I'm sure. When I started meditation, I didn't quite know what meditation was. It seemed like a good idea, find some tranquility and peace. But I went to a meditation class, and all we had to do was focus on breathing in and out for 15 minutes. I couldn't do it for 1 minute. I felt like I could hardly get one breath before the mind ran off somewhere else. And it's so utterly simple, and yet the mind doesn't want to be simple. It seems to have a kind of a force, clinging, an attachment. So it becomes obvious, if we want to live our own lives, we want to live our lives with a sense of knowing what we're doing, clarity and purpose, you can't trust this mind, because it won't do what you wanted to do for 1 minute. So you can't trust it like that. So then it becomes imperative to say, I have to do something here in order to live my own life, so I can make a decision, stay with it, I know what I'm doing. Otherwise, can I even trust what my mind tells me is important? If the mind is either out of control or unbalanced, then what it tells me to do, can I trust it? If you meet someone who's drunk, walking around drunk, would you trust them to give you guidance? No, you wouldn't. But if your own mind's like that, how can you trust it? So you think, look, when you have to live with it, this is all you've got, and it's the centre of your life. So you think, well, I've really got to get this stable and clear, because this is the most important thing in my life. This is the centre of it. So we may feel we have all kinds of things we want to do in terms of our work or our families or our aims, our ambitions, but you realise you can't fulfil any of those authentically and clearly unless your mind's in good shape, because that's the leader of it, isn't it? And then this starts the whole process of what we call cultivation. So in my experience, after those 15 minutes or so, trying to meditate, recognizing just how erratic the mind was, I thought, I need restraint. I need restraint. And so I better go to a monastery. I was only 25 then, but I didn't have a family, didn't have people dependent on me. Okay, I can go to a monastery. Maybe I'll get this couple of weeks clearing the mind, then I'll get this idea, this is really, I know what to do now. Yeah. And after a couple of weeks, I thought, not ready yet, maybe 3 months, should do it. After 3 months, thinking, not quite ready yet. and then you start to, after a while, you begin to get a perspective of what is life about. Yeah. Well, we want to live in a way that we feel a sense of we're comfortable, we're doing things we feel good, helpful, we enjoy them, they're purposeful, not just purely sensory gratification, but something that's meaningful. I want to live a life where I'm doing things I really believe in. Yeah, that's important. And then I want to be able to live with people I trust. That's important. Yeah. And also just enough to support myself. Enough money, requisites to support myself. Recognizing that the way of gaining requisites involves a certain amount of mental endeavour. So how much time do you want to put into that? And then fourthly, would it be good to feel that one has lived one's life, at the end of it, you've made a contribution to the welfare of others. In some ways you've helped other people. So that would be good. Get that. So after about 10 or 11 days of meditation, this realization came to me. This is what I want to do this. Now what does that? What fits that? For me, in the situation I was in, I didn't have a family to look after, I didn't have a job, so I thought, well, it looks like I'll do it this way. I can do it this way. Yeah. Other people could do it other ways, I'll do it this way. For now, And but for otherwise, the Buddha himself recommended, if you're doing work and business, you should just work enough to provide for yourself and your immediate family, and be able to have enough so you can give some money away or some requisites away for the welfare of others, and you have enough spare time to deepen your understanding. So this is a way you live skillfully. If you're doing family and business, enough to look after yourself and your family, enough to be able to offer service or resources to other people, and enough time left over to think and clarify the mind and keep yourself healthy, just as we would do physical exercise. To keep the body healthy, you have to do mental exercise to keep the mind healthy. This mental exercise isn't so much in terms of study, but in terms of exercising what we might call the heart. In other words, we exercise a sense, we cultivate a sense of integrity, moral integrity, a sense of compassion and concern, a sense of self-scrutiny to recognize if one's behavior is pure or impure. So you develop motivations and heart qualities to keep yourself clean, clear, and conscious of what you're doing. Then in this way you can't really fail. You're bound to arrive at a fortunate result. But without this cultivation, people go astray and get very lost. And some people are barely conscious of what they're doing. They're conscious in terms of their sensory consciousness is there. They can see and hear and touch, but the heart consciousness is not there. They don't really realize the results of their actions. They don't really have a sense of compassion and concern for others. They don't really have a sense of, they're going to die one day. So, are they preparing themselves in a way they can pass on without regret, also in a way that leaves good results behind for others? This is the way one should certainly bear this in mind, so that you have a sense of this is the track we're on. Whether we know it or not, our acts, even our thoughts, even our ideas and intentions and attitudes affect ourselves and affect other people. That's the way it is. Other people are affected by our behaviour, by what we do and by what we don't do. The children look around and they learn from us what we're doing and what we're not doing. And if we don't keep the path of conscious concern and self-scrutiny and integrity, we're not doing that, they don't learn how to do it. And if you do it and you live it, they'll learn it. So you model it and you live it. Because this is the way it is. Naturally, our hearts are sympathetic. We're affected. We pick up each other's moods and senses and behaviours, whether they're rough or harsh or gentle and concerned. And this is the nature of human beings. Even animals do that. And we had one of the monks in Thailand, one of the Ajaryas in Thailand, he was very concerned for the welfare of animals. And so people would make donations to the monastery, and then every year he would purchase a load of buffaloes. And so the buffaloes were taken out of service and looked after. And he would then give buffaloes to farmers who would look after them carefully. So he would make sure his water buffaloes were given to farmers who treated them properly. And he would give them a buffalo. If you don't treat them properly, I'm not going to give you a buffalo. So the animals were very, comfortable and not nervous and not aggressive. Then he had a dog. This dog was a big German Shepherd dog. I don't know if you know those, quite a large dog. And he trained the dog to carry a basket in its jaws, so the dog would then go on Bindabar with the monks, arms round with the monks. And when the monks got their bowls full, they'd empty the food into the basket, and the dog would carry the basket. And the dog never ate the food. And it was loyally just carry the basket back to the monastery and then set it down, and then the temple boys would come out and take it. And then the dog would also learn how to look after the elderly women who came to the monastery. These elderly ladies would come to the monastery to make offerings. They'd carry a bag of something, and the dog would meet them at the gate and then carry their bag into the monastery and set it down, so the elderly ladies whose legs weren't very strong could easily make their way into the monastery, and then the dog they'd have their bags will be ready for them, so that then they could make their offerings. And so the dog could pick up this kind of behaviour of service and concern didn't take anything for himself, because that's the way the monks lived. And that's the way they were trained. And so if a dog can pick it up, we recognise this nature of heart is not just for humans, other creatures also have it. And they feel happy. And the dog wasn't forced to do this, he just felt the dog was very happy, because the dog knew what to do, and it felt this sense of fondness and affection and concern for these human beings. That's what happens when we heart opens. We have this sense of concern and compassion and looking out for each other. And then if we do this together, naturally, you've got a world of millions of people looking after each other. You've got paradise. Yeah. But the other way, if we don't do that, the heart's closed because we're too busy thinking about tomorrow and yesterday and what this is that and that's that, what I want and what I don't want, and what I think of her and my opinions about this and my projects. We get lost in our thoughts. The heart basically closes down and goes, and then we end up being competitive, and people get very pushy and aggressive to get sure they're getting more than anybody else, and making sure they've got lots of money so they're secure in the future. Yeah, and they'll be okay in the future. And that's the way the mind works. The dog never earned a single cent. But the dog was very contented, and then people made donations to the dog. So the dog actually had a kind of whole dana fund that was given to him. They never used it, but because naturally when he didn't worry about whether people would look after him when he was old, he just did what was beautiful and good, and people naturally responded. So the dog was very well looked after and loved, and in that attitude of love and affection, the dog would feel very happy, and it would be very, happy to help others. So we realise a dog can learn this. Why is it so difficult for human beings to learn it? Yeah, because we have very complicated minds. And we think about what should be and could be, and what we want and what we don't want, and these are just purely ideas, have no here and now reality to them. Yeah? Right? So when you come and you sit quietly, and you realise your mind is always going off into somewhere else, isn't it? Or into thinking about how you should be, or what you want. And none of these things, what you should be and what you want, is purely a dream. It doesn't exist. We go into this dream world. It doesn't exist. And in that, lost in that, we lose the sense of the appreciation of peace and harmony in the present moment. Yeah? Yeah, so when this mind is doing that, yeah, and then it gets greedy, and it gets insecure, and it starts getting fearful. What could happen? What should happen? What won't happen? What I will be? What I need to be? What other people think of me? And it gets into this fearful state, and it starts creating all kinds of ideas and worries that stir the heart up. So live like that, when we come to the end of our life, lifespan, we're captured by this crazy mind with its worries and fears, and thrown into the world of ghosts, which is where most people live a lot of the time. They live in the world of ghosts. The ghosts are called, what should be is a ghost. Because it exists, but it doesn't exist. It has no fundamental reality, but it haunts us. What I should be is a ghost. What I want to be, what other people think of me, is a ghost. So if you live with ghosts, you become a ghost. And then when you die, you go to the realm of ghosts. And this in the Buddhist cosmology, this is clearly depicted. There's a whole dimension of the world of hungry ghosts who are never satisfied. They've got little mouths and big bellies, and they always want more, 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 more for me, more for me, more for me. Yeah. And there are a lot of people are going there, aren't they? Because they're there already. So we think, hey, this is dangerous. that we realise the threat and the danger of the mind when it's captured and caught. And what is it captured by? Yeah. Now, in the Buddhist understanding, there are two forces that capture it, that cause this clinging, this grasping, and there's craving, which is a sense of thirst. The hungry ghosts are always thirsty. Yeah, they're always thirsty and hungry. So this quality called tanha, thirst. I want more. I want this. I want that. Yeah, I don't have enough of this yet. This isn't good enough for me. Why? I want it better than this. And we want something, and we say, I want you to do this for me. You're always wanting something. I want to be something. I want to have something. So it's rather like this hungry ghost. And the other quality is called avijja, which we don't really recognize it for what it is. We're ignorant. We don't see it clearly for what it is. Because if you look around in the advertisements in the streets, you see they're all basically they're advertisements for ghosts. Yeah. How to get one of these, how to buy one of these, how to sharper, brighter, more powerful, more colourful, more exciting, This is all the kind of food that the ghosts like to eat, but it's rather like eating sugar. It tastes sweet, but it's got no nutrition in it. It just burns you up. Yeah. And the best kind of food, you don't get it from craving. Craving just gives you the kind of addictive. It makes you more thirsty. It's like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the more thirsty you get. So you have another drink. Salt water, you get more thirsty. Yeah. So this is definitely, a kind of a craving, and therefore the mind creates things to crave and wish for. Yeah. And this is bad food. Because you never get satisfied. But there's also good food, which we definitely need. Good food for the heart. And there's a kind of a wish for that. This is called chanda, motivation, purpose. One is eager to develop the heart. So we certainly have that same kind of vigour and energy, but instead of going out into habits that cause addiction, that make us more thirsty, through the mind, through the thinking mind, and through sense contact, through sense desire and what touch, taste, eat, so forth, instead of going out into that sense consciousness, we turn that chanda, we turn it towards how to make the heart more beautiful. And this is going to come through giving, generosity, virtue, and integrity, and understanding. All of these then, because all of these, you don't consume anything. With tanha, you're always trying to fill the mouth and consume something. With chanda, you're actually bringing forth something. And it's like you exercise the heart. And just like you exercise a muscle. First, it may not be very strong, but you keep exercising, you get stronger, so you can give, and you get a grand heart. And this grand heart is something, when you live in it, it takes you to a beautiful place. You feel the kind of like what's called the Devaloka. And that's possible too. A happy, bright, buoyant state. Yeah. And when we live with that, living in the world, you float, you move through it. You can see it, but it's not entering you. Yeah. So because the heart isn't looking around in that world of sense consciousness for something to stick to, it learns its true food is already in itself. It just needs to be properly cultivated. Just like we might have soil, and if you properly cultivate the soil, then the trees and the fruit and the plants and the corn and rice will grow. Now when we consider a quality of generosity, the Buddha mentioned this as a very accessible, heart strengthening, and it makes you happy. Brings on happiness and friendship. And there are different bases of that. There's the generosity in terms of material requisites, which you say is basic, and is limited. Yeah, because all of us only have limited material resources. And material resources only go so far. They maybe keep our bodies safe, comfortable, but really doesn't go much further than that. But it's certainly something that the gesture of it is the most important thing. Then you can use material requisites to do this gesture. The really important thing is this gesture of exercising the heart. Thinking, because with that, as soon as we have this sense, we recognize there's somebody else here. This isn't just my life I'm living on my own, for me, but I'm also opening the heart to awareness of other people in a sympathetic way. So, that feels good. Yeah? It's brighter, more expansive, less fearful, less competitive, unwholesome influences. Selfishness is cleared, and we feel cleaner, brighter. The other kinds of generosity in terms of helping people who are sick, medicines, it goes a long way too. Because with this, people are helpless. And we recognize that all of us, at times in life when our bodies just break, or they're sick, and if nobody else helps us, we're really in trouble. Yeah? So this is even deeper possibility. We came into this life, when we were born, we couldn't even lift our head up. When you come out of your mother's body, you don't have enough strength to even lift your head. You're that helpless. You just got to lie there. And it generally takes 2 or 3 people to actually get you born, and then feed you, and then clean you, and so forth. Till you actually, it takes a few years before you can even stand up. So just the amount of support that's needed. And then when we die, it's the same thing. Gradually you can't stand anymore, you go back to being a toddler, then you're flat on your back, then you can't lift your head up, and then it's gone. So you just go the whole cycle. And you need someone to help you do that when you can't do it for yourself. And so we recognize all of us who may not be sick, but we're limited in our skills and capacities. We just need other people to help us. And there's something joyful and beautiful about being able to offer support and help. Recognize we all have strengths and we all have places we're just not very good at. We can't manage it. And realizing that's not a failing. This doesn't mean there's something failing about us. It means all of us are designed to be part of a jigsaw. We're not supposed to be completely self-sufficient, because the idea is, as we all have our limitations, it means all of us are beings who need someone else can help us. Yeah? And that brings people together, doesn't it? Imagine if we all didn't need each other, then we just ignore everybody. And what kind of qualities of heart will be present then? Yeah, so the heart always looks to ways to expand beyond purely self-concerns. Another kind of giving, generosity, giving attention. Yeah. So we listen to people, we offer them our attention, our sympathy, advice, and we give Dhamma. And it's when there's some wise advice we can give, we offer it. And you realise this is the most powerful kind of dana, because if we help each other to see our blind spots that we can't see for ourselves, no one else can do that. I can't see the back of my head. It's impossible. So if somebody else can give me some advice on where I'm making mistakes, then I think that's considered enormously generous value. Because otherwise one's living with only one eye, can't see properly. We need to recognise that all of us are short-sighted. We can't see the back of our heads. Yeah? So the sense of being able to look around and advise each other, and also support each other with words of that are kindly and supportive. When we cultivate like this, you realise, oh, this is the real essence of being a human being. Human beings have the greatest capacity, greater than any other creature, to cultivate this way. We have a heart that can be vast in their dimension. And you cultivate like that. And when then you also recognise that the need to protect oneself from the unskillful influences, it's like we're living in an atmosphere that's quite poisonous and saturated with war and corruption and violence and deceit. So to protect oneself from that, so you're not taking in the wrong food, you realise you develop sila, morality, not just the 5 precepts. That's a good essential centre to it, but overall the sense of conscience and concern for where your mind is going, how you're affecting others, even when you don't intend to. Just noticing that you look out for any qualities that you're bringing forth, and this leads you to meditation. Because to really know what the mind is doing, moment at a time, where it's going, we have to have a lot of clear attention and recognise not just so much the thinking as the motivations behind it. Whether the mind is driven by ill will or greed, selfishness, or whether it's moved by hastiness or impulsiveness. We're not really taking things carefully, we're rushing carelessly without really knowing what we're doing. So we learn to purify intention for our own welfare and for the welfare of others. This sense of integrity acts as a primary motivation for good karma, and for purification of the heart. You realize in this life, the next moment, what happens to you in the next minute, you don't know. You don't know what will happen in the next minute. What thought will come up, what sensation will arise. If you say, what's going to happen to you today, you don't know. You have a rough idea, you'll go home, maybe, but you don't know who you'll meet, you don't know what the traffic will be like, you don't know whether there'll be an accident, you don't know what the weather, so many things you don't know. What's going to happen? And yet we can spend time planning out that and imagining it, and missing the most important thing that you can determine is your heart bringing forth right now in the present moment? Is it bringing forth clarity, calm, steadiness, integrity? That's the only thing you can know. The rest of it's just guesswork and supposition and belief and hope. But what you can know directly, which is of crucial importance, is whether your mind is sliding off towards laziness or harshness or vanity or dismissiveness. So these subtle forms of stains, you can know that, and you can sense when that's happening, how you stop and you recognize the danger of following, because once the heart follows these intentions, then karma starts happening. We begin to speak and act in ways that give rise to unfortunate results. This again brings us back to the imperative, the imperative to study carefully, to have enough time to study carefully what's happening in the heart. Naturally, in our hearts, we can be receiving the sense of disappointment for what happened yesterday, or worry about someone else's welfare, or, fear of what's happening in the world, or you get these negative effects. It's called effects that happen to us. It's like things are being thrown at you, or blame is being thrown at you, or people are misjudging you, or reporting, saying bad things about you. That can happen. The heart gets very affected by that. But once you establish the purity of intention, the only thing you can't affect the rest of the world, you can't affect what other people do to you, but you can affect what you do to others. And that's the one that counts. Because at the end of the day, the world disappears. At the end of your life, the world disappears. What remains is what you're doing. What other people say and think about you disappears. What remains is what you think about other people. So this is then, don't forget. Don't forget that. So we live with that sense of alertness. And this gift makes you strong, because once you establish that and make that a very strong principle, then when misfortune comes to you, you develop resolution and equanimity. When people blame you, you develop forgiveness. You develop truthfulness and forgiveness. When misfortune happens, you develop equanimity. So you turn, the blows and the rocks and the arrows of misfortune, you turn them into seeds for growth. Seeds for growth instead. So instead of being knocked down by them, it means that the misfortune and the misconduct in the world around you makes you clear, I don't do that. And instead I develop patience, resilience, generosity, equanimity and clarity. And so in this way, our life, instead of being stuck with what happens to us, becomes something that shapes and pushes aside the harmful influences in the world, and we turn the heart around from being sticky and to being generous and expansive. This is for our welfare, the welfare of others. So when you take a day like today and you spend some time reflecting, considering, take any of these points and consider them wisely. We have a very precious opportunity here, and as you come into that sense of stillness, notice what your mind is doing. And you realize, hey, I've got to train this. And how do I train it? Well, I recollect the Dhamma, I recollect karma, I recollect cause and effect, I recollect also there's a practices of training, integrity, mindfulness that will actually clear this and make my life free, fruitful and peaceful. This means the energy of that goes into craving turns into the energy of commitment and purpose in terms of Dhamma practice. And there's no better way to live than that. So, brothers and sisters, offer this for your reflection. I hope something's been useful for you, and offer you my blessings today.